In an absolutely mad game of football, Chelsea beat Brighton and Hove Albion 4-2 to get their first Premier League win of the season at Stamford Bridge. All six goals came in a frenetic and breathtaking first half, with Jorginho Roter and Carlos Baliba netting for the visitors, and Cole Palmer scoring all four for the Blues. This is the second time the Chelsea talisman has netted a quadruple for us, also having done so against Everton last season. This sounds incredible, but quite frankly, Palmer could and probably should have scored more. With Aston Villa dropping points away at Ipswich on Sunday, Chelsea ended the week in the top four, with six games played. With 15 goals scored, we are also the most prolific team in the division so far. Brighton, on the other hand, succumbed to their first defeat of the season under new manager Fabian Hürzeler. This was a game laden with moments of brain fade and brilliance, but there were some interesting tactical trends from both sides. We discussed Brighton's adventurous high line in the preview for this game, with the Seagulls having trapped their opposition offside at least five times more than every other Premier League team going into this game. This is a trend that continued at Stamford Bridge, with Chelsea being caught offside six times on Saturday and having three goals disallowed. Hurtzler set his team up with a high-risk, high-reward strategy in a 4-3-3 formation, with Baliba and Jack Hinchelwood operating alongside summer signing Max Wiefer, with the Dutch midfielder making only his second Premier League start since arriving from Feyenoord for 30 million euros. Hinchelwood pushed slightly further forward than the other two, making it a 4-2-3-1 at times, with Baliba playing more as a box-to-box midfielder. In the first 20 minutes of the game, Brighton looked much the better side. Defensively, Chelsea set up in their customary 4-4-2 shape. Palmer, while pressing the left centre-back Lewis Dunk, looked to block the passing lane to Hinchelwood using his cover shadow, while Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo stayed man-to-man with Baliba and Wiefer respectively. Brighton's goalkeeper Bart Verbruggen was heavily involved in the first phase of build-up, with the centre-back splitting wide. As we see here in this graphic from SofaScore showing the players' average positions, the two fullbacks, number 30 Pervis Estupinian and number 24 Ferdi Cardiolu, advanced well up the pitch to support the attacks. In the opening quarter, Hertzler's men did a very good job of creating numerical advantages in midfield, finding solutions in a variety of ways. Here, as Palmer stays high up the pitch to mark Dunk, Hinchelwood drops in to create a 3v2, receives from Verbruggen, and finds the spare man in Adam Webster to progress the play. In another instance, when Palmer is deeper and looking to put pressure on Wiefer, Nicholas Jackson is caught between the two centre-backs. The ball is switched to Webster, and Brighton are able to progress down their right, with the move ultimately leading to a dangerous crossing opportunity from inside the box. Of course, this involved quick interplay, switches, and constant movement, and any error could be pounced upon, especially by a side with the quality of Chelsea. The first big chance of the game fell to the home side on 4 minutes. Hinchelwood received with his back to goal from Dunk, with Caicedo breathing down his neck. The teenager's first-time cushioned pass to Wiefer was only slightly misplaced, but the Chelsea midfielder was on it in a flash. Caicedo played in Jadon Sancho, and with Cardiolo well up the pitch, the Englishman had significant acreage to shift the ball onto his left foot and have a clear shot at goal. Instead, he chose to go with his stronger right, and Webster was able to come across and block. Defensively, Brighton were extremely aggressive in their press, committing five men in Chelsea's final third. As per usual under Enzo Maresca, Malo Gusto inverted into midfield from right back. It wasn't Kaoru Mitoma, however, who narrowed to the center of the pitch to follow him, with the Japanese winger instead staying close to Wesley Fofana, the right-sided centre-back in a back three. Hinchelwood and Baliba both stepped high up the pitch, and Chelsea found it extremely difficult to play out from the back in the early stages. As we'll see a little later on though, once the Blues settled into the game, we looked like scoring almost every time we had the ball, as we started finding Palmer and Enzo between the lines with regularity. Brighton's press, coupled with their high line, meant that the long ball was a very viable option for Chelsea. Here, Robert Sanchez punts it upfield, and while Cardiolo intercepts, we can see that both Enzo and Sancho would have been able to run at the back line had the goalkeeper's pass been more accurate. In a separate instance, Noni Madueke races ahead of Estupinian to get on the end of a long ball from Levi Colwill and delivers a first-time cross from inside the box. We've talked about a lot of things without mentioning the 6 goals scored, so let's get on to those. It was the away side that took the lead on 7 minutes, and there were 3 individual mistakes by Chelsea players in the build-up. When Estupinian gets to the byline and cuts the ball back, we have numbers in the box and seem to have the situation under control. Caicedo intercepts, but plays a really awkward ball to Colwill, whose clearance hits Baliba and loops high into the air. Sanchez comes off his line to punch the ball away, but misses it completely, and Roter is able to head into an unguarded net to score his first goal for the club. Chelsea's equaliser on 21 minutes was preceded by 2 near-identical sequences which saw us open Brighton up. 2 minutes before the goal, Colwill, our chief progressor from defence this season, played a beautifully threaded pass between the lines which evaded Baliba and found Enzo, who was in turn able to set Palmer through on goal. The Englishman's effort beat Verbruggen, but came back off the post. A few seconds later, Colwill again played through the lines, this time to Sancho, who found Enzo, who set Palmer through once more. Chelsea's number 20 found the back of the net this time, but Brighton's high line had successfully caught him offside. The leveller, just like Brighton's opener, came from an individual error, as Webster sold his goalkeeper well short with a back pass, which was intercepted by Jackson, and the striker unselfishly squared for Palmer, who finally got his goal. By now, Chelsea had started playing through Brighton's press at will. Just a minute after making it 1-1, as Sanchez played the ball out to Gusto in midfield, neither Hinshelwood nor Baliba was quick to come across. Weaver therefore stepped up, and as the Chelsea man was able to flick the ball onto Jackson, watch how Brighton's back four is exposed. The striker played Madueke through, who got into the box before squaring for Sancho. The man, on loan from Manchester United, thought he'd scored his first goal for the club he supported as a child, but Madueke was flagged offside by the merest of margins. With Gusto inverting and Mitoma continuing to remain wide to mark Fofana, Palmer was constantly looking to impact the game by dropping into the gaping hole on the right-hand side. In the 26th minute, this was a key element that led to a penalty for Chelsea. After some interplay between Sanchez, Fofana and Madueke, Palmer is able to pick up the ball and look up. Notice how both Gusto and Jackson are running through on goal on the right of this picture, but Palmer instead goes long to Sancho on the left. The winger is then able to have a run at Cardiolo before entering the box after a give and go with Enzo. He is felled by a combination of Baliba and Ruter, and Palmer makes it 10 out of 10 from the penalty spot since joining the club last summer. The hat-trick, which was sealed 3 minutes later, once again came from a Brighton error in midfield. Hinshelwood's pass to Weaver goes astray, and an off-balance Jackson is able to play Madueke through. Estupinian fouls the winger, but escapes with a yellow card as he is not the last man, with Webster being the covering defender. The free kick, 30 meters from goal, was hardly a foregone conclusion. Such was the confidence running through Palmer's veins at that point, however, he found the postage stamp with unerring ease to complete his treble. The flow of goals showed no signs of stopping as on 33 minutes, Sanchez played a poor pass to Caicedo which was intercepted by Baliba, and the Cameroonian slotted home to make it 3-2. We restored our 2-goal lead with 4 minutes to go to half-time, and while it came from another error, this time it was somewhat forced. Our pressing structure as Brighton looked to play out from the back was ideal, with Enzo and Caicedo both close to their men in midfield, and Palmer using his cover shadow to make the circled area here inaccessible to dunk. The ball is played to Verbruggen, and under pressure from Jackson, the Dutch goalkeeper passes into no man's land. Enzo intercepts and finds Sancho, who is able to pick out the excellent run made by Palmer. The man who on this day could do no wrong whatsoever finishes imperiously at his near post to become the first man in Premier League history to score 4 goals in a single half. This wasn't the last notable chance of the first 45 though, as Rutter turned and found Danny Welbeck with a minute left to play, and the striker's shot was well saved low to his right by Sanchez. Overall, as we see here in the statistics, Brighton dominated possession in the opening half, but Chelsea dominated the chances. In the second period, we saw more of the ball in comparison and were able to stifle the visitors completely. Brighton continued to press with 5 men and play a high line, and the long ball continued to be an option. Here, Colwill hoofs it upfield to Sancho, and look how Jackson and Palmer are completely unmarked in the middle if the cross is delivered early. Chelsea's press was also much more organised and tighter. Here, in minute 52, Hinchelwood is once again the free man in midfield, with Enzo and Caicedo man for man on Baliba and Weaver respectively. From Webster on the right, the ball is played across to Dunk on the left, and while Palmer isn't quick enough to close down the Brighton captain's pass forward, Wesley Fofana is on to Hinchelwood in a flash, not allowing him to turn and ultimately winning the ball back. This leads to a dangerous crossing situation for Madueke, and Webster scrambles to clear the ball from the goal mouth, with Jackson, Sancho and Enzo all waiting to tap the ball in. Just a couple of minutes later, our man-for-man press is once again as compact as can be, and Verbruggen's pass to Weaver allows Caicedo to jump in, tackle and play in Palmer. To the shock of everyone in the stadium, the Chelsea man puts his effort wide. We talked about Palmer looking to influence the game from this area on the right in the first half. In the second 45, he played 3 world-class passes that should have led to assists for Jackson. One in minute 49 when the striker took the ball past Verbruggen but had his effort blocked off the line by Webster. Two in minute 67 when Dunk got across to thwart the Senegalese's shot. 3 in minute 71 when Jackson chose to square for substitute Pedro Neto instead of shooting, and Dunk was once again able to block. On another day, Cole Palmer would have ended this day with 6 goals and 3 assists, and those numbers would certainly have not flattered his performance in the slightest. We had another goal ruled out, our third of the day on 69 minutes. Marc Cucurella was clearly offside when Neto flicked the ball on from a corner, cutting the Spaniard celebrations short when he found the back of the net. This would have been the fullback's first Premier League goal for Chelsea since joining from Brighton in 2022. In the end, despite Hertzler making attacking changes in the form of Yacine Ayari, Yankuba Minte and Julio Enciso, the away side weren't able to pose too much of a threat. None of their 6 efforts in the second half had an expected goals number of over 0.1, that is, a probability of higher than 10% of being a goal. On the other hand, Chelsea could, and probably should, have scored at least a couple more.